Hello, YouTube. Welcome to Level-Headed News. This is your host, Brenda. I have two episodes for you this morning. The two, and it has 3 articles in it. They're in the description of this video, so you can pull them up to take a look at them at your leisure. The first one here is off of dailymail.co.uk, and it is entitled "Outrage at Traitorous CNN for Inciting Violence with Report that Obama Cabinet Member will be president if Trump and Pence are killed at the inauguration." CNN speculated about what would happen if Trump was killed in inauguration. It reported that an Obama-selected secretary would be sworn in as president. They also showed scenes from a new TV show that depicts a Capitol bombing. Furious viewers said report would incite violence against the president-elect. Some even speculated that CNN was hoping that someone would kill Trump. Obama's choice of survivor follows pre-existing protocol in event of major attack. He's been accused of inciting violence against Donald Trump after the network said an Obama appointee would take over if the president-elect was killed at the inauguration. Wednesday's startling report titled "Disaster Could Put Obama Appointee in Oval Office" might happen if Trump, Mike Pence, and the congressional leaders were all killed during the ceremony. During the segment, they also used scenes from ABC's show Designated Survivor. What would happen if the Capitol building swearing in was bombed and the commander-in-chief killed. The report concluded that a Democrat would take the vice president's place in the White House in the event of such an attack, that venomous anti-Trump protesters might attempt a treasonous act on the event. That's exactly what CNN, which was derided as the Clinton News Network during the Trump election campaign and denied questions at his recent press conference, is hoping for. Totally not suggesting anything here, huh, CNN? YouTube user Donnie Brasso, who identified himself as one of the less deplorables, Alexa Vasquez, said she had flagged the video with YouTube's complaints department for inciting violence, while Uniblonder described the network as disgusting and traitorous. It's dangerous to the president-elect and that it might prevent violence, agreed Thrumper of Love. Did the same, said Lemon Goat. CNN wants it to happen. Wouldn't be surprised if they pay someone with cash. And there is video in this if you care to pull it up to take a look at it. The article continues and says more critics suggest that the moves by Democrat representatives, including John Lewis, in the inauguration might imply a plot was already in the making. Over 60 Dems aren't attending, X7 Maverick said. You tell me what they're trying to incite. The report explained that if the president and vice president are killed, the position is passed down a chain of succession that starts with the Speaker of the House, then the president pro tempore of the Senate. If they're killed, then it moves on down to the secretaries of the cabinet, starting with Secretary of State. But if all of them are killed while gathered at the inauguration, the country is leaderless. Video, if you want to see that, says for this reason, one of those secretaries is to be kept away from the ceremony under armed guard to a secure government facility to act as the designated presidential successor. That person, whose identity will not be revealed before the event, will be an Obama appointee, since none of Trump's successors have been sworn in yet. Of a successor taking over, laws call for special congressional elections that would take months, a mess, according to something political scholar Norm Ornstein, Washington Post. The concept of the designated successor forms the basis of Designated Survivor, the ABC drama starring Kiefer Sutherland. He plays Secretary of Housing and Urban Development, who is made president after everyone in the line of succession is killed during a bombing attack on the Capitol building during the State of the Union address. And then there's an insert here that says the line of succession, Presidential Succession Act, lists president in the event that higher members of office are killed. The order is based on when the offices were created, which means that the Secretary of Homeland Security, arguably one of the people's best fit for the position, is last. Term is until the expiration of then current presidential term. How that would work in an attack during the transition of power. And then it gives the list: 1, Vice President; 2, Speaker of the House of Representatives; pro tempore of the Senate; 4, Secretary of State; 5, Secretary of the Treasury; 6, Secretary of Defense; 7, 8, Secretary of the Interior, Secretary of Agriculture; 9, Secretary of Commerce; 10, Secretary of Labor; 11, Secretary of Health and Human Services; 12, Secretary of Housing and Urban Development, Transportation; 14, Secretary of Energy; 15, Secretary of Education; 16, Secretary of Veterans Affairs; and 17, Secretary of Homeland Security. The law states that the secretaries must have been appointed with the advice and consent of the Senate before they are allowed to take the position. There you have that. Boy, let's hope nothing like that happens. My goodness. We have here is off of Zero Hedge, and it says Alibaba's Jack Ma drops a red pill in Davos. $14 trillion on wars over the past 30 years. And there it is, the unvarnished, raw truth about how everything went wrong in America. Since the Vietnam War, more than 45 years ago, the U.S. has embarked on a neocon strategy of war in an effort to build a global empire. The result of that strategy has left American infrastructure second rate, its school system in shambles, and its healthcare system a complete and utter joke. America could have done with $14 trillion of investable dollars instead of waging wars. Aside from wars, America spends more than 50% of its discretionary budget on the military per annum, 16% of its overall budget. And they have a pie chart here showing President's proposed 1.15 trillion discretionary spending budget. And it has 54% of it spent on military, and then the rest of it is kind of divvied up between education, housing, community, veterans benefits, government, Medicare and health, environment and energy, international affairs, Social Security, science, transportation, and food and agriculture. And the one that gets the least is food and agriculture at 1%. Mercy. And then they got another pie chart shows President's proposed 4.1 trillion total spending budget. These are for fiscal year 2016. And it shows that military gets 16%, Medicare and health gets 27%, Social Security gets 33%, science gets 1%, affairs gets 1%, energy and environment gets 1%, education gets 2%, housing and community gets 2%, transportation gets 3%, food and agriculture gets 3%, veterans benefits get 4%, interest on the debt is 7%. And the article continues, it says, that's the main issue, the sordid topic that is rarely discussed in American politics for fear of crossing the military-industrial complex. Jack Ma from Alibaba doesn't share those same fears, being a Chinese national worth $27 billion of zero fucks. In a very rare glimpse of what the Chinese really think about American imperialism and how it has shaped the global economy, all the better for China, I might add, Jack Ma spoke candidly today about an interview with CNBC's Andrew Ross Sorkin. Video that you can take a look at in this. The article continues and it says, "It's not that other countries steal jobs from you guys," Ma said. "It's your strategy. Dispute the money and the things in a proper way." He said the U.S. has wasted over $14 trillion on fighting wars over the past 30 years rather than investing in infrastructure at home. To be sure, Ma is not the only critic of the costly U.S. policies of waging war against terrorism and other enemies outside the homeland. Still, Ma said this was the reason America's economic growth had weakened, not China's supposed theft of jobs. In fact, Ma called outsourcing a wonderful and perfect strategy. Multinational companies made millions and millions of dollars from globalization, Ma said. The past 30 years, IBM, Cisco, Microsoft, they've made tens of millions. The profits they've made are much more than the 4 Chinese banks put together. But where did the money go? He said the U.S. is not distributing or investing its money properly. And that's why many people in the country feel racked with economic anxiety. He said too much money flows to Wall Street and Silicon Valley. Should be helping the Midwest and Americans not good in schooling too. Spend money on your own people, Ma said. Not everybody can pass Harvard like me. In a previous interview, Ma said he had been rejected by Harvard 10 times. Along those lines, Ma stressed that globalization is a good thing, but it too should be inclusive, with the spoils not just going to the wealthy few. The world needs a new leadership, but the new leadership is about working together, Ma said. As a business person, I want the world to share the prosperity together. The country is falling apart, and then there's a chart here. It says world military budgets, and it has, of course, the United States far and above any of the other countries. It also has listed China next and Saudi Arabia after that, then Russia, then the United Kingdom and India and France and Japan. Didn't do that. Continent originally generated from the ibankcoin.com. So there's that article. That's enlightening. The next one we have here is off of the Conservative Tribune. And it says, "Pig cop painting tossed out of Capitol for good." You may recall I've given a couple articles about this painting that depicted the police as pigs, and it was hung in the Capitol building, and it was taken down by a Marine that did not like the painting at all. And then a bunch of the people, the politicians at the Capitol building, had a fit because he took it down and they were going to rehang it. Well, here's the story now. At long last, the painting in the Capitol that featured police officers as menacing pigs aiming their weapons at black protesters has been removed, and reportedly for good. According to Fox News, the latest removal of this painting, removed and then rehung several times in the past month, was performed by the architect of the Capitol, the official agency responsible for maintaining the U.S. Capitol complex. Moreover, it was agency head Stephen T. Ayers who reportedly made the final call after having been persuaded by the Minnesota Representative Dave Reichert, a former county sheriff. Appeared in the Capitol building last month when Missouri Representative Lacey Clay selected it for display after it won first prize in Missouri's 1st congressional district as part of the United States Congressional Art Competition. More than 200 members of Congress and 50,000 high school students have participated in the program, according to the St. Louis American. The display of the painting led to a savage back and forth, in which one congressman would remove the painting and another would rehang it. After the second removal of the painting last week, tensions rose so high that Clay reportedly issued an indirect threat against his peers. "We may just have to kick somebody's A and stop them," Colorado Representative Doug Lamborn yanked the anti-cop painting from the Capitol hallway. As record accurately pointed out to Ayers, however, the competition's rules strictly prohibited subjects of the contemporary political controversy or sensationalistic or gruesome nature, Fox News reported. That was why, ultimately, the architect of the Capitol removed it. Of course, Lacey was again quite displeased. By his unprecedented and unconstitutional action, the architect of the Capitol acted to suppress the free speech rights of my constituent, he said in a statement, according to Roll Call. They have also sent a chilling message to young Americans that their voices are not respected, their views are not valued, and their freedom of expression is no longer protected in the U.S. Capitol. He has since hung the painting in his private Capitol Hill office, where hopefully it will remain completely out of sight. So there you have everything I have for you in this article. If you enjoy this, give it a thumbs up, share it on your social media so everybody gets to hear the news. Subscribe. If you click that little bell beside the subscription button and check the box, you'll get email alerts every time I put a show up, and that'll keep you informed. I've got one more episode for you. Stand by. See you in a bit.